My daughter's school says I can't walk her to the building. Context: my wife works first shift and I work second. It's not ideal, but we make it to work. Because of this, 3 or so days a week I drop my daughter, 6 years old, off at school. She loves when I drop her off, but every time it's time to get out, she gets so sad and seems like she wants to cry. She has seen some other parents from time to time walking their kids up to the school and always talked about how she thought was cool. So I figured, hey, when I take her to school, I'll park and we'll walk up together. She absolutely loved it. She's smiling and laughing and didn't even look sad. So I decided to do that from then on. It continued every time I dropped her for maybe 4 weeks now, and today, earlier this afternoon, my wife got a phone call from the school stating that I was violating school policy and I am no longer allowed to walk her up to the front anymore. Now, I'm not the kind of dude to go off and cause a scene, and honestly most of the time when things like this pop up, I just say fuck it and move on. But this one is kind of bugging me. I'm not hurting anyone. When we walk up, we're out of the way of traffic and buses. I can't for the life of me think of a legitimate reason why this isn't okay. I will admit my understanding and familiarity with school policies is lacking, so I may just not be seeing the full picture. Tomorrow I'm dropping my daughter off again and debating going inside and firmly figuring out what's the deal. Would I be wrong if I tried to fight this, or should I let it go? Edit, I guess. I'm Reddit stupid and on my phone. Thank you all for your replies. Figured I may as well add some stuff since I keep seeing it repeated. Yes, I have seen the other parents walk their kids up personally. I only mentioned my daughter seeing them because I thought it was relevant. Reading the policy/visiting the website, at the beginning of the year they had us sign a paper that asked whether she was going to ride the bus or be picked up, what time school starts, what time they are considered tardy, and what time school lets out. That's it. As for their website, I spent my whole lunch break at work looking through that thing. I found their school policies tab, and nothing about walking your kid up to the building. I even went onto the website for the whole school system for our county. Nothing. I'm parking in the car rider area/blocking other people. I'm not. There's open parking all along the track field beside the school on the main road. That's where I park. I'm going to go in there and blow up like some boomer Karen at Walgreens. I'm not. If anyone did that, it would be my wife. I don't even complain when a restaurant gets my order wrong. And me asking if I should fight this wasn't me implying I plan to put on war paint and call the banners. I meant I was going to actually ask what the issue is and find out what's up with the situation firsthand, other than my usual, oh well. Did I call first? Yes. They said someone could discuss it with me tomorrow after drop-off if I'd like. I made this post to ask if I should even bother or just accept it and move on. It's a safety policy. That's a good point. And honestly, it did not cross my mind. It did not occur to me that her and I walking up from the side of the building to the front with my daughter to the sidewalk about 10 yards from the front doors with her Hello Kitty backpack would be unsafe. Does her mom walk her up? No. She doesn't do the sad thing with her when she gets out. They spend a lot more time together during the week, so I think they're both glad for the break from each other. Last thing, I really do not care about waiting in line. I'm not in a rush. The only reason this post happened is because my daughter loves it. She thinks it's cool, and I like making her happy. I work second shift, and we don't get to see each other a lot during the week. If any conversation happens at this school about all of this, it will be civil and polite. As I said before, I'm not a screaming Karen. I don't want any animosity at the school. I've met her principals and teachers, and they're nice people. Regardless of how I feel about it, though, I'm going to abide by their decision. It's their house, they make the rules, no hard feelings. Again, though, thanks for your replies. I appreciate it, even the mean and negative ones. Try to be less pedantic. You'll be happier. Thanks, guys, have a good one. Top comments on post. Lobster Primary 2015. Go in, drop your daughter off, then stay and ask why your wife got a call when you see other parents walking their kids in. Ask exactly what policy you are violating. I would advise you don't approach the conversation aggressively or with presumption. Likely, and hopefully, it was all a misunderstanding. LH123456789 is common for schools to have specific drop-off procedures, whether it be parents staying in their cars in the carpool lane, parents being allowed to come up to the fence, or parents dropping their kids off at a specific door. You wouldn't be wrong to inquire about what the drop-off rules are at your child's school. Although I would be surprised if you didn't already have access to this information somewhere, but you would be wrong to make a stink about those policies. JSD Peachy, it may be a safety policy the school has, where no adults pass a certain area without a pass. Especially at drop-off times when things are chaotic. That way no unknown adults can get by. It's unfortunate, but is the times we live in. Update post, next day. Hello everybody. Short and sweet update for you guys. This morning, I talked with my daughter about the situation and explained that we probably won't be able to do it anymore. She understood. We're brainstorming ideas to make our mornings together more special. I had the meeting with the principal this morning as well. We waited for all of the other car riders and buses to disperse, then parked in front of the school and came inside. It was fairly uneventful and very polite and pleasant. He explained that there was no official policy as of right now, but last week during pickup a student took off running and almost got hit, so they're in the works of implementing it. I don't know about the almost incident because I'm at work by that time, and my wife didn't know because she gets there pretty early to be towards the front of the line. It seems reasonable, and that's that. It was cool while it lasted though. Like I said earlier, we're thinking of something cool to replace it. I already leave her notes or funny drawings on her doodle pad for when she gets home, so we'll think of something. Thank you guys again for your replies. Y'all have a good one. Top comments. Commenter. That doesn't make a lot of sense though. A kid took off and almost got hit, so wouldn't it make sense that having parents walk their kids to the front door be more responsible? See them go in, instead of dropping them off around the corner. Or is there a specific drop-off area with teachers? Commenter. Probably more about the amount of people coming in and out, and not knowing if a student is under a parent's watch or the school's. TBH, at my kid's school, I see the most dangerous behaviors from students when there's an event where parents are supposed to be managing their own kids on campus. But since they're on campus, they assume staff are managing even when there's info saying they aren't doing that. It gets hectic. I can understand why they would minimize that and the amount of people going in and out of the building. It's just safety. Update post 2. Next day, 2 days from OG post. Hey everybody. Didn't expect to make another update, but I just got the phone with an administrator at the school. I can walk my kid to the door. Apparently, they had their school council meeting or something like that, and a lot of people brought up some of the points you guys did about how it makes no sense and relevancy and whatnot. Also, as some kind of speculated at, it was another parent, who also works at the school, who complained. The lady I talked to on the phone said she couldn't go into specifics, but the complainer basically said, "I don't like that," and used the almost incident with that runner kid as an excuse. It's my wife's turn to take my daughter tomorrow, but I'm going to take her the rest of the week and walk her up both days. It's not a big deal, but feels nice to win one. Thanks to all of you guys. Have a good one. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for telling my fiancée to stop calling me by her late husband's name? I am 34 years old and my fiancée is 31. Mon and I have been together for 4 years, engaged for 1 year. She is also 4 months pregnant with our first child. She is a sweetheart, we get along very well, and I can see myself with her for a long time. Mon was married for 6 years before she met me to a guy named Kyle. Kyle died in a car accident a few years ago. Although the relationship between Mon and me is great, she often calls me by her late husband's name. Things like, "How was your day, Kyle?" or "Can you grab that for me, Kyle?" I'm almost certain it's accidental, and she always apologizes and corrects herself, but still makes me uncomfortable. She even slipped and called me by his name during sex. Finally, I sat down with her and, upset, told her that this was making me uncomfortable and asked her to stop calling me that. She started crying, apologized, and told me that she still loves Kyle and always will. I don't know why, but that really made me unhappy. At the end of that evening, her sister messaged me saying that I was rude to her sister and that I'm an H. Relevant comments. Commenter. He died a few years ago, and you've been dating for 4 years. When did he die? Oop. He passed away 7 years ago. They were high school sweethearts and married early at the age of 18. He died when they were both 24 years old. Commenter. Grief is weird and hard. She may grieve Kyle for a long time. She has the right to. You also have a right to not be okay being called someone else's name. Has she seen a grief counselor? Have you considered couples therapy? The two of you need to sit down and talk about how you feel. She likely loves you very much and why her brain keeps defaulting to Kyle. It is, however, also likely that she has not properly dealt with her grief. She will need compassion and time. She also needs to understand that you are her partner and Kyle is not. Your feelings should matter to her and is not unreasonable to ask her to make a concentrated effort to get your name right. Regardless, therapy. You should both probably go. Oop. Has she seen a grief counselor? Yes, she did in the first 3 years after his death. Have you considered couples therapy? Yes, but at the moment I haven't found any. Update, 6 months later. Update, since that day, Mon and I have been in couples therapy, and she has returned to the first therapist who treated her during the first 3 years of her grief. Obviously, it hasn't been easy. Our daughter was born a month ago, and Mon is still going through a lot, which makes taking care of a baby in the middle of all this even more complicated. Luckily, our parents are helping us with the baby. We've decided to postpone the wedding indefinitely. A lot has come up in therapy, such as finding out that Mon cries for Kyle when I'm not around. This can happen monthly, 3 times a month, or not at all. She also admitted that she doesn't feel comfortable talking deeply with me about it because she thinks I would get upset, which is nonsense considering I've heard stories about him before and never showed any upset. Some of her statements in therapy, like, "I will never love anyone like I loved him," hurt me a lot. I feel more and more that this relationship is doomed to failure. However, this doesn't mean I'm giving up. I really love her, but I'm not extremely optimistic. I'm trying to work as much as possible on the relationship, mainly for the sake of our daughter. Update 2, 1 year later. Update 2. So a lot has changed. Not everything has been easy, but I think, in a way, we're finding a new balance. Therapy has helped us a lot, both individually for her and as a couple. Mon is better at separating the past from the present, and she no longer calls me Kyle by mistake. We've been able to talk more openly. She feels more comfortable discussing the past and her feelings in depth. Our daughter is growing up so fast, and I can't even imagine going through all of this without our family support. As for the marriage, it's still on pause. It's something we want at the right time. I can really see that she's putting in a lot of effort. She's been talking a lot with her sister, and we go out with her and her boyfriend quite often. My SIL has always been somewhat protective of her and is genuinely concerned about her improvement. Aside from the usual small arguments, I'm managing to stay optimistic about the future. Some of the comments on my first post helped me a lot in the early stages, and I'm really grateful. Story 3. Am I the a-hole for using information against my mother in court that I know will destroy her emotionally/mentally? I, 34F, am involved in a very dramatic court case with my narcissistic mother and stepfather. First, a little backstory. When my sister was 1 and I was 3, my mother initially had custody. However, she had gone missing for 4 days, but leaving my sister and I in the home alone. Investigations were done, and we were raised by our father. There was a reunification plan. However, my mother did not follow any of it, and her parental rights were terminated. No one had ever talked negatively about my mother growing up or told me what happened, so when I was 20, I found my mom and decided to develop a relationship with her. Big mistake. After reuniting with my mother, I discovered quite a bit of information that I previously had not known. She is a narcissist, diagnosed formally, specifically vulnerable narcissist. My stepfather has BPD, diagnosed formally. This past decade has been torture, fake cancer. I was made to shave her hair. I had to pay them to watch my 2 children, constant arguments, just too much to name. In 2022, my parents decided to move 15 hours away for a get-rich-quick scheme involving flipping homes. I decided to stay in our hometown because my youngest child's father died and I wanted to stay close to his family, plus I was already in a year-long relationship. My mother was enraged. After she had already left, she tried everything to get me to move up with them. She asked me how much money to break up with my boyfriend, got me fired from a job, wrote posts online about how mean I am, texted my oldest about me, sent me hundreds of messages each month, etc. This had been going on continuously for about a year. Earlier this year, I was served paperwork. My mother and stepfather are suing me for grandparents' rights. However, no court date was ever sent. My oldest child goes to her father's every break, and when she came back from summer break with him, she was acting very different. I found out that my mother and my child's father have been in close contact for about a year and a half, had my daughter speak with my mother, see my mother, and recorded videos of her that my child did not know about. I have sole legal and physical custody, so needless to say, a huge argument happened, and I am now restricting any visitation. As a result of this incident, my mother and stepfather set a court date for a month from now. So here's why I ask if Ada. For court, I plan on using text messages where my mother said my stepfather is a danger to children, text messages from my daughter's father stating my mother is psychotic and he would never give our child access to her, and my mother's court records. My mother has over 140 plus charges on her record in 5 different states. My stepfather knows none of it. I'm also using the fact that her parental rights to me were terminated, so legally she has no rights to my children. My concern is that knowing she's a narcissist, when I use these documents in court it will humiliate her and probably turn my stepfather against her. I do worry it's going to trigger a horrible reaction from my mother, possibly the worst. I wish my mother no harm. I just want to be left alone and protect my children. I've been no contact this whole time, hoping it would stop, but it hasn't. I am feeling so conflicted. Relevant comments. OP responds to a point where she should steer clear of her mother, get a restraining order, and other legal action as possible. OP, I'm glad you were cleared. Gives me hope I can get through this too. I'm staying no contact and have no intentions in ever engaging again, which is why I also told my oldest child's father he will not see her until further notice because he will let my mother around my child. If I can get a restraining order, I will. Just trying to get her out of my children and I's life, but with limited fallout. Looks like I can't avoid that, unfortunately. Commenter 1, this is your child. I don't give 2 craps about your mom or her feelings. Also warn your lawyer. She will lie her ass off and probably already has in the deposition. I might have missed if your dad is still in your life, and if yes, he might have some skeleton to help you. You don't want some left-wing judge saying she made one mistake, I'm giving her visitation. You want to show how horrible she is that she will give you a restraining order so she can't contact you or your child and limit any contact with the father of your child. If you didn't know your mom was nuts then, maybe let him start a slow again. OP, I already warned my lawyer. I asked my dad if he knew anything, and it wasn't too much more than I already knew, so I hired a private investigator, and that's how I found out a lot of the charges. Unfortunately, my child's father knew everything about my mother already and let it happen anyways. I have evidence that my mother paid my child's father in order to see my child. It's a whole mess. Commenter 2. I'm wondering why you remained in contact with your mother once you discover her issues? OP. I often ask myself the same question. I have never dealt with anyone like her before, and I never lived with her, so I didn't experience a lot of this wrath until I defied her wishes. I wasn't raised around her family, so I didn't know anyone else's experience. I also didn't know a lot of the criminal stuff until I hired a private investigator. The mental illness stuff should have scared me more, but at the time it didn't. Now that I do know everything, I can never let my kids near them again. Commenter 3. I'm curious why you would even care what effect this would have on her. You intend to present evidence-based facts that are entirely pertinent to a legal proceeding she started, involving the care and safety of your minor child. At no point should you be considering how that information reflects on her relationships with anyone else in her life, because that is not relevant here. OP, I didn't specify in my post, but I have 2 half-siblings from my mother that are being put in the middle of this as well. So part of me is concerned that my mother will destroy my relationships with my half-siblings, who I am close to. My mother is the type of person who would attempt suicide and write a note saying that I made her do it. While I do not want my mother in my life, I do want my half-siblings. But I guess I need to just put that concern aside and maintain focus on my kids. OP explains about her state and the grandparents' rights. OP, my state is a little different. They only have to prove they have had contact with my children in the last 3 years. So the time is almost up, which is why the case. My number and my kids' numbers were already changed at the start of this. Deactivated all social media profiles that identified my name. I got a job that is heavily secured and needs clearance to get in. I moved to a different city, 30 minutes from where I lived. I honestly did everything I could. My child's father was the problem, but I had no idea he was going behind my back and keeping contact. Update for 0.5 months later. I finally have an update on my situation since I last posted about 5 months ago. Court was postponed twice by my mother for reasons I don't know. Then it was postponed for a 3rd time due to accusations that I was an unfit mother and my daughter had suicidal ideations. My mother asked the judge to appoint a guardian ad litem to make sure the children were safe. Court was rescheduled to March 2025. The past 5 months, I have been doing nothing but researching my mother. I found she has a total of 19 active warrants, including 3 probation violations. I turned everything over to my lawyer in hopes something would work. 2 days after discovery was turned over to my mother's lawyers, my lawyer called to let me know she officially dropped the case. My children and I met with the guardian ad litem. They told the judge they see no issues whatsoever. After over a year of fighting this, it's finally over. It's been such a tough battle, but I'm so happy my kids are safe and will never have to go through what I have. Thank you to everyone who wrote me personally and commented such positive things. You all have no idea how much it helped me, especially when I was having such an internal struggle. My kids are doing better than ever, and I'm grateful we pushed through. More info **** to answer some comments. I have already moved several states away, changed my contact information, and have been no contact for 3.5 years. I am currently working on getting a restraining order, but have been advised by my lawyer that I may not be granted one due to lack of proof. That's frustrating, but I'm still trying anyways. My daughter and I still have had no contact with her father, and other than a very strange Darth Vader text, we haven't heard from him. He's also a couple states away from us. I also have my daughter in therapy, so I'm hoping she learns how to have better boundaries than I did. I am not going to call the different areas about her warrants yet. My thinking is that she won't make any big moves against me as long as they are active and I know about them. Something I can hold of her head, just in case she tries something again. I know it's probably not over, but this was a huge win. Relevant/top comments. Commenter 1. What an incredible update. Your strength in fighting for your kids is truly inspiring. I'm relieved to hear the guardian ad litem found no issues. What kept you motivated throughout this journey? OP, thank you. What kept me going was my kids and wanting to break the cycle of toxicity for them. They deserve the world. Hopefully they will have better boundaries and not find themselves in a similar situation. How did OP's mother acquire that many warrants? OP, she has 30+ aliases and has 200+ charges in 8 different states, all financial-related crimes, identity theft, robbery, fraud, etc. She's a con artist. Commenter 2. Please do not ever have contact with your mom and stepdad again. Also, that ex seems to be a jerk too. If your mom starts harassing you, just make sure to document, video, record, and file a restraining order against her, as BD, include your kids. That would be best. Commenter 3. Contact all the venues for which she has warrants and tell them where she is / how they can find her. Let them take care of it from there.